Music for the longest time was my life. Like when I was raised in an Islamic family, and it really wasn't until about middle school I really started getting influenced by music big time. And at that point, that's when I realized, like, the same time I really started getting involved into music was the same time I really started going away from Allah. That's when I was really influenced by a lot of bad things. And looking back now, the fuel for all that really drove me to do it was music. Because music, if you really look at all the messages and like everything it talks about, preaches and endorses, is the exact opposite of everything Allah tells us. Music is all about, do drugs, do whatever you want to do. It messes up all your priorities. It really gives you a false sense of reality, this fantasy you start chasing, and it ruins your life in the process. Like every time I was sad, I would listen to a song. It would make me feel better. Every time I was excited, I would listen to music. Every time I was looking for guidance, I would read lyrics to songs. And this is really dumb because rather than seeking help from the Creator, the Lord Most High, I was seeking it through the illusion of music. And you cannot use an illusion to solve real problems, real internal problems. For a second you'll feel good, but it will go away right after that and you're right back to where you were. Everything I used to do was based around music. I used to literally wake up going to music. I used to go to bed listening to music. Literally, I would fall asleep listening to music. And people take it for granted. They're like, oh, it's just music. It's not bad. No, it will warp your mind because music is filled with messages that are affecting you, whether you know it or not. Anything you listen to over and over and over and over again, it will have an effect on you. And like Plato once said, like he's an ancient Greek philosopher, there was a quote he said, be wary of the music that enters your society, because that music could destroy your whole society. So even the ancients knew the power of music, how it could change you in no time. And especially music nowadays, again, if you look at it, all the messages are the opposite of what God tells us, and that is not a coincidence. Any song from all the way from the 60s to present, its whole motto is do whatever you want to do. Be yourself. Don't listen to anybody. Don't listen to authority. Make your own rules and do whatever you want to do. And funny enough, that is the only commandment of Satanism, which is do what thou wilt. That is the only commandment they have. And that means you do whatever you want to do. That means you create your own rules, you create your own laws. In a sense, you are your own God. And then this whole philosophy came from a man named Aleister Crowley. He is one of the most influential people of the 20th century that shaped culture, and very few people know about him. And this whole agenda that's occurring in music today that's designed to really destroy the minds and take people away from God came from this man. Once you read his history, you will want to throw up about all the stuff he used to do. But anyways, in the early 1900s, he wrote this book called the Book of the Law. And this book he claimed was given to him through divine revelation. He said this revelation came to him from a devil named Aiwass, and it wrote the book through him. And now this is the guy that so many artists idolize, and his whole goal, he said, is to change culture and to make it completely go lost, to deviate culture, to get people into doing everything immoral and wrong. And all the artists follow this guy, and they use music as the tool to push this agenda. And this guy is the worst of the worst, and he is all the heroes' idols. That book that he wrote, that he said it was channeled through a devil, and then in this book he talks about that there is no sin. You are a God. Do whatever you want to do. Anything, you name it, do it. And the devil attacks people in this way through music, because the devil will never go up to someone and say, hey, I'm the devil, follow me. But if he hides himself behind humans and music, they don't even think about it. Just like that quote, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he never existed. So in the same way, the devil hides behind the music, and he attacks people this way and puts all these ideologies and beliefs directly into their mind, and the kids are listening to it over and over and over and over again. And it corrupts you. It takes you away from truth, and again, you're living in this fantasy. Again, going back to that quote, the greatest trick he ever pulled was convincing the world he never existed. So he uses these artists to spread their beliefs, to spread, their ideology, to get people away from God, and these artists are willing to do it. And a lot of them talk about it. It's really, really scary. If you do the research, how many talk about, this song, I did not write it, it wrote itself. On stage, something takes over me and I don't even remember what I'm doing, what I'm saying, singing, nothing. The shaitan just uses them as a car in this world to spread all their filth. And I used to always go to concerts. That was kind of like me going to the masjid back in the day. I I never went to the masjid. It was concert, 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 you know, and like you see it all there. You see the complete opposite. Everything bad, I mean, you name it, it's going on over there, and it's being endorsed and it's being fed. Allah started showing me the influence of music and how it was destroying me, and that led me back into Him. So the same thing that got me away, Allah used to bring me back. Once He showed me what it really was, you know, what I was listening to, what was really going on in the music industry, and that really woke me up because I realized, hey, this is real. These people are not doing this for fun. The devil is real. The corruption of the mind is very, very real. And that led me to believe, you know, that was the first step. Like, okay, if this is real, then there really is a God, because these people are trying to take me away from Him. And why is that? Because He exists. So from there on out, I kept looking in further and further and further. And alhamdulillah, Allah kept showing me more and more and more, and just confirmed my faith, my beliefs, and alhamdulillah led me to where I am today.
The end of music. This is a message for our believing brothers and sisters in Iman, who are afflicted with listening to music or were confused by statements of scholars who said that it was permissible. What can I say about music? If you ask someone the simplest question about the Prophet ﷺ, they cannot respond. But they can tell you about individuals who sing and curse all day and produce the worst messages for our youth, offering nothing positive to their communities or to the environment. They can tell you about those people and their childhood and where they grew up and who they married and who they're dating and what year they put out their albums. Because I believe that every good Muslim knows deep down in their heart that music is haram. And this is illustrated in this story where a man came to the companion, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. And he said, Ya ibn Abbas, this music, this singing, is it halal or haram? This is singing that does not include talking about fornication. It does not show people dancing or videos, people wearing... is this permissible? So Ibn Abbas tells him, he says, do you see the truth and falsehood? When they come forth on the Day of Judgment, which side do you think music will be on? You think it will be on the side of truth, on the side of the prophets, on the side of the Quran and dhikr and Psalm and salah and Allah Azza wa Jal, or it will be on the side of falsehood? So the man said that it will be with falsehood. So Ibn Abbas says, go, you have answered your own question by yourself. When people gather to pray, generally good things happen in these gatherings. It's a good gathering. When people gather to recite the Quran, it's a good gathering, and you don't find it being surrounded by things that are haram. But things that are haram are usually surrounded with things that are haram. And look at the things that surround music. Whenever people gather around music, there are typically not gatherings of righteous people. You don't typically see the Imam of the masjid in that gathering and the mashayikh and the mufti of the city. You don't find righteous people typically. And you find intermingling, and women with their hair uncovered, and women who are poorly dressed, and you will find alcohol, and dancing, and smoking, and that night usually ends with the sin of zina, fornication, wal-'iyadhu billah. So this is the first indication then that it's haram, because it's always accompanied and surrounded with things that are haram. Even the biggest music lover, get a Muslim who is the biggest music lover, he will not be pleased if he hears rap music in the masjid. If he enters the Jum'ah and he finds the Imam with a big boom box, then the Imam hits play, and then a funky beat comes over, and then the Imam starts to freestyle. Yes? The biggest music lover in the audience will become upset and offended. Why? Because they know this is something that is totally opposite of the feeling that he came to get. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, and it is a Sahih hadith. He said, there will be amongst my ummah people who permit four things. Al-hira, which is adultery or fornication, and silk, and alcohol, and musical instruments. This is a Sahih hadith in the book of Bukhari. So we look at some of the opinions of the companions and the scholars of Islam. And the companions, there are some issues that the Sahaba disagreed upon. So you can choose this side or that side. But on the issue of music, they did not disagree once. There is no disagreement of the companions. They have ijma' on this issue. Consensus that this thing, that music, was haram. There was not any companion who said that it's okay. And anyone who says so, we challenge them to bring us proof of any one companion who said that it's okay. And of the four Imams, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentions the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa is the strictest in this regard. They clearly stated that it's haram to listen to all musical instruments. And they said the person who listens to them is a fasiq. Fasiq is someone who is a dissolute, someone who lacks moral restraint, or a rebellious evildoer, whose testimony should be rejected. And not one of the four madahib said that music is halal. Not one of the four madahib. Perhaps some people who listened to this were angered by some of my speech because it showed fault in something that they love. But remember that we're only calling you to something that is more beloved to you. We're calling you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the speech of Allah and to the Quran. وصلى الله وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه.